Hello everybody out there, welcome to this brief introductory video where I want to tell you what automatic control is all about. My name is Florian Dörfler and I'm lecturing Control Systems 1 at ETH Zurich in the fall semester. In this brief video I want to convey to you the main ideas of what is automatic control, what's the concept of feedback, but also illustrate that to you with an example that's hopefully familiar to many of you from everyday experience and that should resonate with you. Let's get started. What you can see here is a block diagram. That is, it explains abstractly the concept of control as feedback. Control is really the science of feedback, feedback between the world of physics and the world of algorithms, the world of information technology. We close this feedback loop between the physical world and the cyber world through means of real-time sensing and by means of real-time actuation. Let me elaborate a little bit on that arrow. Namely, what we do here in sensing, we collect data from the system, measurements either offline and real time, and what we do with this data, we infer properties of the system, such as what is the state of the world, infer hidden variables, or build a mathematical model. You can paraphrase this arrow as making sense of the world. And this is what signal processing and data science is addressing. What is really unique to control is that it doesn't just collect the data, but it makes this data actionable. That is based on the collected data, there's an algorithm that we call the controller, which makes a decision. It computes a decision then how we should affect the world again through real-time actuation. And that's really unique to automation control. So if this arrow is making sense of the world, what control is doing essentially is making a difference to the world. Okay? And this is the high-level idea of automatic control. This is what is called a block diagram. This is what you find when you type in automatic control into your favorite search engine. I admit that this is a very abstract concept, and I myself, as a student, have been staring at such block diagrams for years, and I was wondering, okay, makes sense, but what is it really? Now I want to turn this around and give an example that really builds up from an everyday problem that you're familiar with, so it doesn't remain an abstract concept. The example I chose for you is driving a car. In this case, our physical system is a car. And one of the many jobs that you have as a driver of a car is to go at a desired speed. What does desired speed mean? Typically, you want to go from place A to place B as fast as possible. You don't want to be stuck in traffic, but you don't want to go any faster. That is, there's a speed limit, and violations of the speed limits are expensive, especially in this country here. Fines are expensive in Switzerland, as you may know. Okay, so you close a real-time control loop as a driver in a car. What is that control loop all about? Well, what is your sensor? What you do, you look at your odometry data. Literally, your sensor are your eyes in this case. You process the odometry data and you read off what is the real-time velocity. So you have an idea of the measured velocity. What is your actuation? In this case, actuation means you can go faster or slower by pushing the pedals, either the brake or the gas pedal. That is, you can command a force, U, on the car, telling it to accelerate or decelerate. Well, how do you do this? Well, I guess what I do as a driver, if I'm going too fast, I slow down. If I'm going too slow, I speed up. So I run more or less this type of control loop. I look at my real-time measured velocity. I have an idea of a reference velocity, say 50 kilometers an hour inside town. I look at the error signal, V minus Vref, and the feedback force, U subscript FB, standing for feedback, that I command on the car depends on that error, V minus Vref. That red curve is exactly V minus Vref. So I push the pedals according to the error signal with a certain level of aggressiveness, and that aggressiveness is essentially the slope of this line here. We call it the gain in control. But really what's going on, you look at the error between V, the reference velocity Vref, multiplied by a level of aggressiveness, and then you tell the car to accelerate, decelerate by pushing the pedal. You see I left this feedback loop a little bit open here. That is, there's an extra error coming in. And that extra error is what we call a feed-forward signal, UFF. Essentially, that's an extra force that does not depend on any real-time measured velocity, but that is exogenous. That is, it depends on things such as change of speed limit. You look ahead 200 meters, there's a change of speed limit due to construction, you brake ahead of time. Okay, you don't wait for an error signal to materialize. Or think about things like gravity or friction. Say you're going downhill, you know you need to push the brake a little bit harder just to have the desired speed. You're going uphill, you have to push the gas pedal a little bit harder. Okay, so there's also this feed-forward signal typically built in. And that's really the control job that I'm doing here as a driver. That is, I realize the sensing, I realize the actuation, and that's my controller going on in here. Good. Well, luckily, we don't have to do this anymore. Especially in Switzerland, you may know people are very happy about an invention called cruise control, by now about 40 years old, that essentially takes that job away from you as a driver. That is, we have completely automated this task of going at the desired velocity. What I want to do now is run with you through a little calculation here on the board and tell you how we can automate our job as a driver here. Okay, how does cruise control work essentially? We start off by building a mathematical model of our physical system. And we follow the paradigm of, well, models should be as simple as possible. So what's a very simple model that captures the dominant physics of what's going on, but is still simple enough to be tractable? Well, we just use Newton's second law, F equal ma, forces mass times acceleration. So let me model the car as just a mass going along a road. Okay, so that's my car with a certain mass m, and it's driving along a road. And now let me draw the free body diagram. It goes in a certain direction, so my position coordinate is x, and as you know, the derivative of position is velocity, or equivalently, position is the integral of velocity, so x is the integral of v over time, and there are certain forces acting on the car, in particular the force u that I'm commanding here by pushing the pedal, or well, the brake pedal or the gas pedal. Okay. I can model many other forces such as friction, gravity, and so on, but I want to keep it simple for now. If you stay with me for 2-3 minutes, you will easily understand how to extend this example to more complicated models. And so let me now write down the equation F equal ma, so mass times acceleration, acceleration is change of velocity over time, mv dot is equal to u, which is the force that I command on the car. And that's my models. So as you know, all models are wrong, but some are useful. This is a sufficiently simple model that would do the job, if you want. Now, what is my control objective here? My control objective is to go at the desired speed. So ideally, v of t should be equal to v ref of t. That is, this signal and these signals should coincide. Well, typically we won't do that, but at least we want that to happen asymptotically. So we want that v of t should converge to the reference of t as time goes to infinity. It will turn out to be convenient to specify this control objective in error coordinates. So what I do, I write down an error, e of t, which is v of t minus v ref of t, and I want this error then to go to 0 as time goes to infinity. Typically, I don't just want this to happen as time goes to infinity, but say exponentially fast. So I want to control how fast this decaying to 0, very quickly typically. So as you can see, our equations of motion are specified in velocity, but we really care about the error. So it probably makes sense to write down how does the error evolve over time. So let's write down the aerodynamics. So we write down E dot. Well, E is V minus ref, so E dot is V dot minus V ref dot. Well, V dot we get from here, this is the commanded force U divided by the mass of the car minus the change of the reference velocity. For instance, if you know a speed limit is coming up, you will change the reference velocity. Very well. Well, now it remains to design a controller. So we know what the aerodynamics are, we know they should converge to 0, but how do we now design this box here? Let me quickly remove this overlay to have some more space for us. Sorry, this is not the right one. So let's first think about what would be a desired error. So we know what the aerodynamics are, but what is a desired error? Okay. Let's first think about this graphically. Well, the desired error should maybe evolve as follows. Here's my time axis. Here's my error as a function of time. Here's my error at time 0. And what I probably want to have is that this signal is decaying exponentially. Okay? maybe with a certain initial slope. Say the initial slope here is given by a constant. Oh, sorry for that. It's given by k. Can you read this? No, you can't. Let me just write this as a formula. What you typically want for the error is that your e of t should be exponentially decaying with a certain slope, say minus k times t times the error at time 0. Where of course k is a positive constant. In particular, it's the slope here of this exponential decay. Well, so you want the E dynamics, which are given as this, to follow this time domain equation. It turns out to be more convenient to specify this differential equation, so you quickly realize that this exponential function follows the differential equation E dot is minus ke, and that's our desired aerodynamics. Alright, so now we're actually already at the point of designing controller. We have our real aerodynamics as given by the physics. We have our desired exponentially decaying aerodynamics, where the k controls how steeply is this aero decaying. And now what we're left with is to choose a u so that this dynamics is equal to that dynamics. That is all we do now, essentially, is matching. So that we say our physical aerodynamics should equal our desired aerodynamics. That is, minus ke should equal to u over m minus u ref dot, or equivalently, what you get is that your u should be m times v ref dot, so mass times the change of the reference velocity, minus ke, which is this term. And as you know, E of t is V of t minus V ref of t. So let me immediately replace this as a V minus V ref. Okay, and now we're done. What we have here is a feedback controller. So you can see we change U, the commander force, as a function of the mesh velocity. In particular, we compare the mesh velocity to our reference velocity. And there's an m missing here. We multiply this by a level of aggressiveness, m times k, where k is our desired exponential decay. So you can see, make the gain k larger, push the pedal harder, means the ergo is going to faster to 0. So this here really is what before I called my UFF, my feedback. And this part here depends on an exogenous signal, namely I anticipate my error, my reference velocity changing over time. And so this is a feed-forward signal. And maybe now I should go back to the block diagram. Maybe what I've written down here is exactly what you can see in the red box here. There is a feedback part which compares the measure velocity to the reference velocity. We construct the error coordinate v minus v ref. We multiply this by a gain, a desired level of aggressiveness, that's the k, and then we feed it back to the u. Then there's this part, which is this little arrow, which is our feed-forward signal, where we know that the reference will change over time. So it is a v ref dot, and we put in that extra force. And this is really the concept of feedback. Now I've completely automated your job as a driver, and that's cruise control. That's literally, for the most part, 90% what's going on in your car when you press the cruise control button. This is now a basic example of a feedback loop. That's the key idea of feedback. Okay, and really automates your job as a driver and makes your life easier. And this is what this lecture will be all about. Designing feedback loops using real-time sensing, real-time actuation, and designing the algorithms which link them to the physics. And this principle gets you all the way from, say, cruise control to autonomous driving. If you're interested in this, I'm looking very much forward to having you in this lecture. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.